The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.
Thanks for tuning in to Brothers-in-Law on Go Country 105. I'm Larry Mandel.
And I'm Rob Mandel.
And we've been trial attorneys here in Los Angeles for over 40 years.
On our show, we will discuss current events, talk about legal issues, and have some very entertaining guests stop by. So stay tuned every week for Brothers-in-Law right here on Go Country 105.
Well, welcome back, everybody. We're Brothers-in-Law, and I'm Larry Mandel.
I'm Rob Mandel.
And we're here today, and we're welcoming back our brain injury, brain disease expert, neurologist, Dr. Daniel Franc, and one of our clients who suffered a traumatic brain injury, Ray Urrutia.
Welcome
back, gents.
Welcome, guys. So we were talking last week about how, when Larry and I were kids, we were running around all over the place on skateboards, on bicycles, on mini bikes, no helmets. No one knew really the significance of a concussion, of a brain injury. I mean, I think if it was like, something that was blatant, where the skull was cracked or something, then people understood it. But otherwise, they really didn't have a good understanding. And I got to tell you that I think there was a very courageous football star who, when we were talking about beasts on the field, right, Ray? Right? This guy was a major beast. I can't even remember what team. I think it was the Oakland Raiders.
It might have been that or the Steelers. It was the Raiders?
I think it was the Raiders. Lyle Alzado. And he ended up getting brain cancer, as I recall. And as he was dying, he told the world that he believes that his underlying brain pathology, whatever he was suffering from, was the result of repeated insults to the brain in football, and that it was a highly under-reviewed or overlooked situation, and that professional football needed to take a big look at that.
Right. And that's Junior Seau.
Well, this is years and years before Junior Seau or the movie Concussion. I want to say this is like 25 years ago that this fellow made that statement as he was losing his life. And yeah, but you mentioned Junior Seau, and that of course has put just a much bigger, brighter spotlight on this
impact on this, yeah.
So, but anyway. Ray, tell us, again, we were talking about how you had some concussions as a young football player, but then had this big fall where Larry and I represented you. Right. And so how did you deal, and you were talking about, hey, I couldn't remember things, I was irritable, I was depressed, and you're still struggling with some of those issues years later, right? So what did you do?
Well, first off, I would say that, found my faith, I guess, along the way. Pretty much, found a church that I got connected with. Family. I had a big support system with my family. Without them, this journey, this animal that I went through, I wouldn't have been able to go through it without the support system that I had, the friends too, the people that stayed with me along this road. You guys, my rock stars, my heroes, represent me.
I like that. I'll take that.
Any day of the week.
Yeah, for sure.
And this guy right here, this
Dr.
Dr. Dan is, because, if you're doing, you're wrestling with that animal, as you put it, both from a medical standpoint and a legal standpoint, you need a good medical expert on your team, right. like Dan Franc.
Somebody who specializes in traumatic brain injuries is like Dr. Franc.
Right.
And so, Ray, when you're going through this journey and trying to rehabilitate yourself, what do you do?
Just take it day by day. Definitely. I got connected with some stuff within my medical providers, so I was getting the extra counseling, that I needed. As far as school, I was getting the extra help that I needed to function in the classroom. And like I said, but the biggest thing has just been like my support system, and I consider, all of you guys along the way too. Just my support system really kind of carried me through this. I can't say that it was all on the back of my own, my own strong will. It was everybody else,
But you were motivated because you went back. You went to junior college.
Yeah.
You waited a year
Yeah.
to kind of heal.
Right.
And then you enrolled in junior college.
Right.
And you had some type of program that assisted you?
I did. So right now I'm taking classes at Norco Community College, and they have a disability resource center. So a year after my accident, it's just one of those things. Being stuck at home, it was killing me, and I had to do something, and so I attempted this thing called college that I never thought that I would do, and I was getting the extra help that I needed. Started off taking 1 class a semester, 2 classes a semester, kind of picking up the pace, and just that was kind of my sanctuary, just going to college. At home, I was the kid that struggled with the brain injury. My family would
walk on pins and needles, right?
Exactly. And
they wouldn't know what you were going to be the next day.
Dr. Jekyll or Mr. Hyde, right?
Right. And then at school, I was whoever I wanted to be, and that was like my place of comfort because nobody knew my story. And as long as I just kind of stayed in my own lane and did my own thing, I was okay because nobody came in conflict with that. But
You're targeted though to complete your
right now. So
AA
right now I'm
degree?
studying. Yeah, right now I'm studying with the Criminal Justice Department, and hopefully see where that carries me. But that's the ultimate goal.
So awesome, man.
It's never
So
changed.
proud of you.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
For sure.
So, Dr. Dan, how do we get a person like Ray from that terrible, dark place that he was to this much better place that he's talking about? What are the things that you and the people at your disposal can do to get him there?
Sure. In some way, I feel like Ray could teach a master class on how to recover from a TBI because he just outlined all of the major points that I hope to have a patient hit. So family support is huge. That social support is so vital for recovering, and unfortunately not everyone has such a tightly knit family that Ray did. So we sometimes try to cobble together family and friends to help out, and it's very difficult for them to often understand how patient they need to be with someone who's got the irritability and the personality change, and to have to wait it out. So that's one key point. Another one is just the internal motivation. The fact that Ray was listening to his symptoms, that there were some months where he was out of commission. That's very normal after a head trauma. So essentially during that time the brain is healing itself, and in some ways we may feel like our brain is very dull and hardly functioning, but in reality behind the scenes the brain is hyperactive, and reconnecting all those damaged circuits that happen after a traumatic brain injury.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105.
And so part of the treatment is, the protocol is speech therapy, which I know Ray attended, right? And how does that interact with healing, the healing process?
Well, that's also called cognitive therapy, right?
Absolutely. So he is, unfortunately, it's a small minority of patients who get the appropriate kind of cognitive behavioral and speech therapy that Ray got. And in Southern California, we have a couple of great centers, and he ended up at Casa Colina, which is a nationally renowned center for neurorehabilitation, and he took advantage of that. And that can help to, again, reset those circuits and help to slowly train them back up into functioning.
Yeah. We're lucky to have that that level of facility here in Southern California. And fortunately for Ray, even though, it was in Pomona, and you lived in
Elsinore,
Lake Elsinore. So it was still a trek, but it wasn't completely out of the question. And you didn't get enough of that, as I recall, but you got some. and
It helped, didn't it?
It
Ray?
helped.
Yeah, for sure, and also enough to realize that there was a problem too. Like, you know, I mean, when I was going through the testing and stuff, like, you know, because I guess through this whole process, I like to think that, you know, I'm okay, I got it.
You were in denial at times.
Exactly.
I know.
And so my mom kind of, you know, pushed me to, you know, get my butt into that place, and I was like, man, maybe there is something going on up here. So.
And you had a hotline
Yeah,
to
for
me and
sure.
Rob.
Of course, yeah.
Right?
Of course, yeah.
And talking about family and family support, we felt like you were part of our family. And we would go out to your house and talk to you
Right.
and actually go over the case. And that was all part of our representation.
Right.
To get to know you and the family on a more human level.
Right.
I think that is the ultimate importance in dealing with someone who has a case too. Now, not everybody has a case associated with their brain injury. Maybe they were just, you know, the victim of too many hits on the football field, or, you know, slipping in their own bathroom or something like that, or some other type of pathology that can cause a brain dysfunction. What other kinds of things are similar to a traumatic brain injury, Dr. Dan?
Well, there are degenerative conditions such as dementias, Alzheimer's, for example, and I wouldn't put them in the same category, but those are other areas of brain dysfunction that we're starting to understand a little bit better.
Yeah, and it's devastating because my father-in-law has Alzheimer's, and so, but he gets a lot of family support, as we're talking about. My wife sees him and interacts with him, and I've seen quite a deterioration over the years, and it's so sad. You just go, I'm sure, Doc, it's like these different levels, and he's at the most, or almost the most severe level at this time.
Are there treatments that are similar, though, for people who have had like a stroke or have the Alzheimer's or other forms of dementia, as for someone who's had a traumatic brain injury who might be younger and healthier and have a better shot at recovery? Or how does that all play out?
I guess you could say that the family support aspect, the changing the environment, changing, you know, being accepting of the limitations and working around them, all of the things that Ray did, slowly getting back into his community college and and slowly getting back into friends, finding new social supports through church. That's very similar to in a dementia scenario. We look for similar, working within the parameters of the disability. How do we help to support them and do rehabilitation to maximize their potential?
Yeah, there's no magic pill, but like for instance,
it's all work.
Yeah, it's
right?
work.
It's right, Ray. It's like a pile of work to get yourself well.
For the Alzheimer's patient or dementia, there's just so much you can do, though, right? I mean, there's family support, but as the disease progresses, is there anything that can be done as it progresses to stop the progression?
At this point, we really don't have that key, intervention. And I think with time, we're starting to understand the importance of a multitude of factors. We think Alzheimer's is maybe not just a single gene mutation, but rather, affects a lifetime of poor sleep, not taking care of our health in general, eating poorly, can all contribute in general to an eventual degeneration. So it's, unfortunately, I think with Alzheimer's, we're never going to find that one intervention to fix it.
Have you suffered or been injured by someone else's negligence? When you need a legal team that will stand up for what is right, won't give up the fight and obtain justice, call 818-886-6600. Mandel Trial Lawyers specializes in personal injury cases of all types. Whether it's a car accident, product or premises liability, dog bite, or a catastrophic injury, Mandel Trial Lawyers are there for you when the fight is worth it. Call now for your free consultation. 818-886-6600. Let the scales of justice tip in your favor.
Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
With the traumatic brain injury, there are tools. And
let's talk about those tools.
Well, but I guess that would also depend on the level of traumatic brain injury, right? Because I've seen people with what's called anoxic brain injury, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Which is what, Rob?
Deprivation of oxygen to the brain, and my understanding is that's a much more global effect on the brain, and so I've seen people in that condition that are either vegetative or semi-vegetative.
I think there's a point of no return where the brain is so damaged that it can't repair itself. But on the other hand, in a case like Ray's, we can see, firsthand the capacity for the brain to essentially heal itself. So our job in general is, as physicians and therapists, isn't necessarily to go in and flip a switch and make a little change, fix the brain externally. We're just trying to support the patient so that they have the best chance of essentially healing their own brain.
I see, in our case in handling for Ray, the other side was criticizing Ray for excelling in school and doing something with his life. But
in those 2 classes that he gets a pile of help with, and no offense to you, Ray, but I mean, you had a lot of help, and but you were dedicated. I mean, you were like, it was your sole focus to do something positive, right?
But the irony of that is that was probably a good therapeutic approach. Is that correct, Doc?
I mean, to be honest, if I could distill and bottle what, that kind of willpower that a patient like Ray has, I mean, that is the key ingredient that often is missing. So that desire to overcome is something that, as a physician who deals with a lot of traumatic brain injury, I feel that I'm essentially a cheerleader trying to help, people go after their goals. And when someone kind of inherently has goals that they're working towards, that is such a important, it's important for all of us, but especially after a traumatic brain injury, it's key to really getting better.
And and again, as in Ray's case, if you've had a traumatic brain injury as a result of someone else's wrongdoing, and you want to pursue that legal action, which you should, in Ray's situation, I think it really turned for him in a large way when we got Dr. Dan on board, because you were able to paint that picture and show how, hey, once you damage this part of the frontal lobe, that there's some major challenges, and you have this incredible knack of putting it all in very understandable terms, and yet not letting go of the very, very extraordinary and technical science behind it. How would you explain that to our listeners?
What did you just say, though?
What did I just say?
I'm just kidding, Rob.
I have no idea what I just said.
Go ahead, Doc.
No, I'm talking about in terms of playing that role, not just as someone, hey, I'm going to try and help this person medically. I'm going to try and help them neurologically. But I'm also going to try and help other people, like judges, like jurors, like the defense, who may have a very thick head, right, as to why in the world is this so significant and so important to have an
advocate,
right? Well, to have a future care and to have an understanding of how damaging this is. So how are you able to do that, and why is that so important?
Well, I think part of it is that our understanding of how the brain works is, expanding essentially every day. We have a much clearer understanding of what the different circuits in the brain, in the frontal lobes that were essentially damaged in Ray's case were. So to kind of demystify how the brain works, especially in these circuits, is really key, and to understand what the potential of recovery, but also what is lost and what will probably need ongoing, lifelong intervention to maximize. So part of it is really just combining basic science and essentially make it so that everyone can understand. And it's not essentially that complicated. Our brain is in many ways like a like a computer.
A circuit board, right?
It's a circuit board, and
Yeah.
after a head trauma, the hardware can be damaged, but also the software isn't working. And so when I'm seeing a patient who's got a lot of issues with sleep and planning, memory, mood, I'm speaking a lot about how can we change the software, and that's where the rehabilitation really comes into play. And essentially the behaviors, what we do all day is in a way training the brain. So the fact that he was not always wanting to get up in the morning and put the shoes on and get in the car and go to community college, but did it anyway, was in a very big way a brain training exercise.
Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and of course, brothersonlaw.com.
My point was, not every doctor, even there's fantastic doctors out there, are willing to jump into someone's case and help them basically win their case.
Yeah, but also to explain it.
Yeah,
as a communicator.
Who have that ability to explain it, but are willing to go that extra effort and go that extra mile for someone. Why? Why do you do that?
Well, I suppose I don't feel that, in general in medicine, we get the training to understand things like, psychological issues and neurologic issues. And also, what I love is just to get to know someone as a human being and, empathize and use my training and my expertise to, the best of my ability to improve their lot in life. And, I guess I would expect that most doctors would want to do that. I just think we're not quite as sophisticated yet in our training, and that's one of my career goals, is to bring, neuroscience more into general knowledge, and from, teaching my kids middle school class about the brain to, getting out in the public and doing a little bit more education about how the brain works, what happens when there's a problem like this, and what to do to make it better.
And it's so important because, as you were saying before, especially in that frontal lobe area, that's who you are. I think we love this idea that there's a soul, and the soul is, but I think, and we may never ever know where the soul emanates from, but we do know that who we are and how we behave and how we interact with people and our basic personalities reside in our brain. And if you scramble that, you injure it, you hurt it somehow, that's going to
have a misfire.
Yeah, that's going to diminish who you are, at least as other people perceive you, and that can be really gut-wrenching and heartbreaking.
Well, and Dr. Dan was prepared to testify at our trial and explain
Very
all this.
prepared.
Yeah.
He did testify.
Yeah.
He gave deposition testimony that was rocking.
Yeah.
And really.
And he brought it home as to
Yeah.
how Ray is affected and how he can be affected in the future and how he can cope with that and overcome some of these problems and disabilities.
Right. And so for you, Ray, what does it feel like to have that behind you?
Man, it's a big monkey off my back, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
It's a little more easier now to tie my shoes in the morning and get out of bed.
Yeah.
Along with everything else, just getting over that big monster of a case, it's been an awesome feeling. Definitely, I feel like I can move forward with my life without feeling, like there's conditions, or I can just be whoever I want, and do whatever I want, and continue with my goals, finish school, transfer out, start my career, that's...
Because you want to go to a 4-year college, don't you?
That's my ultimate goal. Yeah.
Right.
So, so we started this case in, what year was it, 2015? Or 2016, I'm sorry.
Yeah, early.
Yeah, 2016. So I started school in 2017. So yeah, while we've been going through this case, I've been going to school. So my 2 years is up. I'm ready to apply next semester. So I'm super stoked to find out where my final location is. So.
Wow, and we're so super stoked for you, brother.
Yeah, thank
I'll
you.
tell you that.
Thank you guys.
Hey, I tell you what, folks, if anyone out there has had a traumatic brain injury or knows someone who does, has a loved one or someone like that in that similar situation, give us a call. We'll talk to you. We'll figure out, if there is some recourse, like we were able to do for Ray.
Yeah.
We'll probably bring in Dr. Dan to help. And you can call us at our number anytime, 818-886-6600.
Yeah, and you're not going to know unless you call us.
That's
We're here
right.
to help.
Hey, we want to have a little fun. Can we have just a little bit of fun? We've had 2 weeks now of seriousness. I want to have a little fun. So I want to ask you guys a true or false question, okay? So this is for, I'm going to ask Dan and Ray to weigh in on this. If you're in Illinois and you're under the age of 21, you can still drink alcohol legally, but you must be enrolled in some kind of cooking class or culinary program to do that. What do you think? Is that true or false?
What do you think? We'll start with Ray.
That's so funky. It has to be true.
Okay.
It has to be true.
All right.
What do
I'm
you
going
think?
with Ray.
All right.
It sounds, you know what it sounds like though, Rob, before you tell us? It
Yeah.
sounds kind of European. Like, you know, you can have your wine if you're under 21,
Right.
as long as you're eating cheese
Well,
at the same time.
if you're eating in the bathroom, you're European.
So,
It's true. Okay. It is true.
yeah.
I'm moving it
All
over.
right. I have a feeling that's probably true in any state, but who knows? All right, so we do have a message.
It's about time
in the
we check the
message.
Mandel message
we
box,
had
right,
call
Larry?
in.
Let's check the Mandel message box.
Hey, brothers-in-law, this is Sherry from Westchester. I was wondering what the statute of limitations is to sue someone over a physical altercation. I have pictures and a hospital report from the event. Thanks. Love the show.
And so we want to respond to Sherry from
Yes.
Westchester.
right.
And fill her in on the limitations issue that she just asked about. Larry.
Yeah, if there's an injury, it's governed by the 2-year statute of limitations in the state of California. So,
Well, for that kind of injury,
Right.
that she's talking
Personal
about.
injury.
She's so a physical altercation.
right.
She's got pictures and a hospital report. The problem with that is, so just remember that 2-year limitations period. But the more problematic issue there is that somebody who is intentionally hurting you is not likely to be insured.
Because
There's-
the insurance covers negligent acts, not intentional torts.
Right.
Or intentional
Now,
acts.
sometimes there is a kind of a gray area there and an overlap. So that person who may have instigated the altercation and injured Sherry may be covered by their homeowner's insurance still, even though it was an altercation as opposed to a pure accident.
Right.
So she shouldn't just let it go, depending on the level of injury, especially. So, Sherry, you know, keep
Follow
us in
up,
mind.
give us a
You-
call.
You can give us a call. We'll talk to you about that.
We're Larry and Rob Mandel, the brothers-in-law, here on Go Country 105. Do you have a legal issue you need help with? We want to hear from you.
Find us on Instagram and send us a message. Then tune in on Saturdays at 8 a.m. right here on Go Country 105. Hey, if you missed any part of this show or you just want to hear it again, go to brothersonlaw.com for all of our previous shows and all things Brothers on Law.
So,
Is it time to wrap up, Rob?
you know what, God, I do hate to say goodbye
To our special
Ray
guest.
Urrutia and Daniel France, neurologist, but I think it is getting to that time where we have to wrap up our show, and we really appreciate all of you tuning into this 2-part series. It's very important.
Yeah,
And
we hope you learned something.
And we could do 4 more parts easily, you know, and maybe we will, you know, down the line. But we want to thank Ray and Dr. France for coming down to the show today, and
We've really enjoyed having them on both of you on the show.
yeah, we have.
To
Yeah,
all our
I'd say
listeners.
thanks for doing this. I think it's really important to get this
It
kind of
is.
information out.
Yeah.
You know, we need to all get more educated about brain health.
Absolutely, we agree.
Thank you, guys. Anyway, to all our listeners, thank you for tuning in, and check out our next week's show at the same time, 8 a.m. here on Go Country 105. And remember,
Let
Rob,
the scales of justice tip in your favor.
The opinions expressed in the Brothers-in-Law show are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for personal professional legal advice.